Welcome to this explainer. Think back for a second to the last time you bought a hand-shaken drink or a bubble tea. It's a massive, incredibly crowded market, right? Everyone seems to be selling a slightly different version of the exact same thing. Well, today we are going to uncover how a small Taiwanese shop, starting with just 170,000 new Taiwan dollars, completely turned that brutal market on its head. They did this by fundamentally changing what they were actually selling, transforming from a simple standard tea stand into a highly sophisticated premium fruit platform. So grab your favorite drink and let's dive right into this evolution.
First, we've got to set the stage here because Taiwan's beverage market is an absolute juggernaut. We're talking about an industry pulling in over 56.7 billion NTD annually. But because it's so incredibly lucrative, it's also what you'd call a hyper-competitive red ocean. It is heavily saturated with over 16,000 shops, all desperately battling for your attention. And the turnover? It's staggering. In fact, a mere 3 months, that is the compressed, ruthless lifespan of a completely new drink shop trying to make it in this environment. You either find a way to stand out immediately, or you just quietly disappear.
Now, Dayoung's didn't survive this intense pressure cooker by simply trying to brew better classic tea than everyone else on the block. No way. They survived by pulling off a massive twist in how they operate. As founder Chu Jae-tang puts it, they don't even view themselves as a traditional hand-shaken drink shop anymore. Instead, they operate as a platform that just happens to sell fruit. It's a total paradigm shift in their identity.
So, to understand how they did it, we're going to break this down into 5 parts. Surviving the red ocean, selling fruit not tea, the supply chain moat, digital pivot and loyalty, and finally, challenges and future growth.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, Surviving the Red Ocean and the Brutal Reality of Taiwan's Beverage Market.
Look at this massive pricing gap. While classic competitors like 50 Lan and Qingxin compete heavily in that 55 to 60 NTD range, engaging in that constant race to the bottom, Dayoung's commands a huge premium. They're pricing their drinks up to 110 NTD. I mean, would you pay almost double for your afternoon drink? Well, Dayoung's bet that you absolutely would. They successfully charge a 30 to 50% price premium over legacy competitors by completely opting out of the price war. Instead, they cater directly to health-conscious consumers who are more than willing to pay top dollar for guaranteed quality.
Which brings us to Section 2, Selling Fruit, Not Tea, and Creating a High-End Fruit Platform.
So how do they actually justify this steep premium to consumers day in and day out? Well, they justify it through a really rigorous 100% fresh, 100% limited philosophy. They totally abandoned artificial syrups. Instead, they anchor their whole brand identity around a timeline of highly anticipated seasonal fruit events. So rather than a boring static menu, they're constantly rotating: strawberries in the winter, mangoes in the summer, crisp grapes in the autumn. This creates a really powerful sense of FOMO, fear of missing out, while absolutely guaranteeing freshness. Every season becomes an event, making you feel like you're experiencing a local harvest rather than just quickly buying a sugary drink.
Moving on to Section 3, the supply chain moat and tech-driven agriculture.
Okay, to consistently deliver that level of seasonal freshness across a massive network of over 230 stores, you need immense infrastructure. You can't just wing it. They built a serious supply chain moat, contracting directly with over 1,600 farmers and investing heavily in some pretty serious food tech. Enter HPP, or high-pressure processing. To put this into perspective, imagine the weight of 4 5-ton elephants standing together on a single, tiny coin. I wouldn't want to be that coin, right? And neither do the bacteria. That is the immense, mind-boggling water pressure HPP uses. It's a cold pasteurization technique that completely eliminates dangerous pathogens without ever having to apply heat to the delicate fruit.
The difference here is literally night and day. Traditional heat pasteurization fundamentally destroys natural flavor, alters that vibrant color, and essentially burns off thermal-sensitive vitamins. It basically cooks the fruit. But HPP, cold pressure, it retains that fresh, just-picked flavor, perfectly preserves the nutrients, and significantly extends the shelf life. This tech leap is exactly why they earned the rigorous double clean label. And crucially, it allowed them to break out of their own storefronts. Today, they actually supply their premium bottled juices to over 2,000 external restaurants, including Michelin-recognized spots, which just massively expands their revenue streams.
Let's look at Section 4, Digital Pivot and Loyalty, and how they went from failure to 1.7 million members.
So how does this highly physical agricultural product translate into a digital strategy? Interestingly, their massive digital success today actually started with a very public failure. Back in 2019, they asked a super bold question. Can you sell a physical drink subscription the exact same way you sell software? Think about your Netflix or Spotify account, right? Could that actually work for bubble tea? They attempted a first-of-its-kind subscription model to see if people would prepay a flat monthly fee to pick up drinks whenever they wanted.
Well, the results were a harsh reality check. They only reached about 1,000 subscribers, falling massively short of their 9,000 subscriber goal. It was an expensive but vital lesson. You just cannot easily force a rigid software subscription model onto a highly impulsive physical treat like afternoon tea. People just don't buy their drinks that way.
But they didn't just give up. They executed a brilliant four-step pivot. First, they reevaluated what digital users actually wanted. Second, they turned the founder into an influencer, creating a face you could trust for drink recommendations. Third, they launched highly gamified app challenges, like the 333 drinking movement, actively rewarding consistent consumption. And finally, through all this data, they successfully built a 1.7 million member app ecosystem. Today, up to 40% of their total revenue is driven directly by these fiercely loyal digital members. It's a massive turnaround.
Finally, Section 5. Challenges and future growth, navigating crises and competition.
Look, as innovative as Dayoung's is, it's not all smooth sailing. Operating an agriculture-reliant premium brand comes with very real, day-to-day risks. First, their strict commitment to fresh fruit makes them highly vulnerable to extreme weather and fluctuating crop prices. A bad typhoon literally means a bad quarter. Second, building a brand on purity means any misstep is significantly magnified. We saw this with the 2025 leopard cat orange controversy, where their local sourcing claims were heavily scrutinized. It just goes to show that a single marketing mistake can severely damage consumer trust. And third, despite high revenue per cup, their physical footprint is still much smaller than the legacy market leaders.
When you stack them up against the competition here, the scale of their challenge is crystal clear. Dayoung's is fighting true industry Goliaths. Coco has thousands of global stores. Qingxin has over 900 in Taiwan alone, and Dayoung's operates with around 230. Because they lack that massive scale, they must rely entirely on extreme quality, transparency, and technological differentiation to justify those premium prices and keep people coming back. Ultimately, Dayoung's fascinating evolution, from a tiny 170,000 NTD startup scrambling to survive to a sophisticated tech-driven fruit platform, shows us a completely different way to break out of a red ocean market. You don't always have to fight on price. It leaves us with this final provocative question next time you grab a drink. Does the future of the beverage industry belong to cheap, mass-market convenience or transparent, tech-driven agriculture? What do you truly value in your cup? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I hope it completely changes the way you look at your next bubble tea.